Welcome. We have breaking news. Welcome to Unchained TV's LA Fires Town Hall, where we will honor the victims, both human and animal, and get the very latest from rescuers who are on the ground operating with very little sleep, and talk to them about how the daily choices of the human race have contributed to this unprecedented catastrophe. You're seeing video courtesy of Billy McNamara, an animal activist who risked his life to go into these fires to rescue animals during this inferno. This is becoming one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history. It's nothing short of an apocalypse, leaving at least 24 dead, more than 12,000 structures destroyed, more than 90,000 hit with evacuation orders, and it could cost well over $200 billion in losses. And let me say this, here at Unchained TV, it's not too soon to talk about climate change and what might be in store in the future as the climate crisis escalates. We are not going to do this town hall and simply engage in what I like to call disaster pornography, where we just scream and yell and mourn about the horror without talking about how to prevent the next horror and how our daily choices are contributing to the climate crisis that is really in its early stages. We have 10 top animal activists and rescuers here to talk about this situation. I want to start with the people who are on the ground. Jane Garrison, you have been operating with little to no sleep for days now, rescuing animals on the ground. Please tell us what you've been going through and what the situation is on the ground.
So the situation on the ground that is the most frustrating to me, Jane, right now is that animals are in these areas that are no longer on fire, but they are trapped in houses without food, without water. And we dealt with this 20 years ago with Hurricane Katrina, and nothing has changed since 20 years ago. They're denying residents access to any animals that they evacuated with and they couldn't catch, cats who they couldn't get in a carrier, dogs who ran away because they were afraid. These animals very much can still be alive. I rescued a dog, Oreo, the other day who was outside during the fire and he was still alive. It would be such a tragedy for these animals to survive the fire and then die of starvation or dehydration because we didn't get to them. And they are survivors, but we have to act quick. It's not enough for an animal control officer or a person to go to a location, see a burned down house, and walk away and say, there's no chance. There's always a chance. We need to put food and water stations out for them. So if they survived, they can come out at night and again, keep themselves going until we can trap them.
Well, we're looking at some lost cats lost in the Palisades fire, in various other fires. Now, we have a team that is really on the front lines. I want to go to Maya Berlinpass, who is with VivaGlobalRescue.org. You also have been on the ground. What would you say is the problem, Maya? Why is it that these animals are starving and going without water? The fire in the areas that homeowners want to get back to rescue their animals, the fire is not there anymore. What's going on?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is actually obviously a pretty unprecedented disaster in California history, but we did really expect the county and city response to be a lot, stronger. And unfortunately, my team was originally sent out into the disaster zones to evacuate large animals and equines out of yellow and red zones. So the first 250 animals that we rescued in this fire were animals that their owners did not have trailers to get them out, and we rescued them out of the fires so that they would not have any damage and suffer anymore. So after that, we did notice that the county and city response they were not responding to animal calls, and our hotline opened up for animals who have been left behind in houses, animals that have been left in houses not by the owner's choice, but because the owners were not able to catch them in time. They had 5 minutes to leave, they had 10 minutes to leave, and cats notoriously are very hard to catch. So unfortunately, hundreds of these animals have been left behind, not by the owner's choosing. Many of them that I speak to personally every single day, cry to me over the phone about how they tried to leave all the windows and doors open. They did everything that they possibly could. And so what my team has been doing has been, search and rescue on the ground at this point, but we specifically have been focused on getting into houses with the owner's explicit permission, as well as often their keys, and getting into their houses and actually saving their animals from the fire, from the houses that are still standing, that are locked inside there with no food and no water. And then now our team has also moved on to search and rescue for animals that have been in homes that have burned down. So our team is setting up every day around the clock, 24 hours a day. We are working on getting in, getting out. We've got teams going in all day long, oftentimes all night long, setting up feeding stations at specific locations in our database, as well as setting up trapping locations in our database as well.
And I want to go to Judy Mancuso. You've been tracking this from the beginning. Social Compassion has hotlines and various ways that people can help. I know that PETA has issued this statement. Wildfires have been raging in Los Angeles for almost a week, and many animals remain trapped in burn zones without food, water, or medical care. Rescue teams have been unable to reach them, and formal appeals to the city of Los Angeles have gone unanswered. Judy, what's going on?
Well, we finally got them to answer, and it took making a lot of noise and going in every way we possibly can to city council members, deputy mayor, the mayor herself, philanthropist. And as of today, there is now a hotline, which when people call this number, their incident, their address, what the animal is, where it was left, will go into a database and then be dispatched to either animal disaster folks like we have on the ground, and Maya and Jane that you just talked about, FEMA certified, other certifications, and they will be dispatched to these areas. The problem right now is that with the looting and everything else that's been going on with the public safety issues, there's a lot of tanks on the street and a lot of lockdowns. And so it's becoming, at this point, it's becoming just impossible to get in. So without the help of the city of LA, helping these rescuers get in, there's no way to have access.
And I want to thank you, Judy. I want to jump in because Billy McNamara, whose video you are looking right now, has just joined us. He has truly risked his life repeatedly during this fire to rescue animals. And honestly, Billy, when I was looking at this footage, which you provided, thank you, I was like, this man is risking his life. You were surrounded by an inferno. Can you tell us, first of all, like what it was like to be in the middle of this inferno?
Well, I was a little bit caught by surprise, obviously. And, what happened was, I guess it was Monday morning at 9 or 9:30, I was doing dishes in my kitchen and I saw a giant plume, look like an atomic bomb, a mushroom cloud, over what I thought was the street Montana, which I live close to. So I thought, wow, that's the biggest, that's going to ruin everything on Montana. So I drove to Montana, which is a street in Santa Monica, and it wasn't there. It was further. So I went to San Vicente. It wasn't there. It's like, wow, where is this thing? Went further to Sunset, and that's where I saw like the Palisades Hills and on fire. And the good news is how this I think was different from the Woolsey fires is they had the super scoopers up right away. I saw 2 or 3 or 4 of them, even helicopters and those planes that scoop the water up. So I thought to myself, oh, good, this is not going to be Woolsey at all. These guys have it under control. And so I sat there and I filmed some of it. I got some nice film of the super scoopers doing their stuff, which I thought was great. And I didn't think there was any reason to panic. But then I saw there was smoke was just getting worse. So I thought, maybe I should drive into Palisades Village and park That ended up being a bad idea. But and maybe see if there's animals at people's homes. And so I did that, and I saw the fire, and that was very bad. And so I think I got a text from, I think it was Simone Reyes, saying, "Hey, there's no resources in the Malibu, those RV parks off of Sunset and PCH, just south of Sunset. So can you go there and help, Billy?" And so I thought, yeah, sure. But there were barricades up, so it took a while to get around the barricades. I just woke up. I'm actually, my lungs were messed up.
Don't worry about it. You've been working around the clock without sleep for days. We're really thrilled that you've even taken the time to jump on here, Billy.
Yeah, and so by the time I was able to get to the PCH, I was trying to document everything because I really didn't think this was going to be a major fire, but it took a while. It became dark, and so I couldn't see a lot. So anyway, I ended up on the PCH at the parking lot right across the street, and I tried to I did get out of the car, and I tried to run across 2 or 3 times to get in there and see if there's any pets that I could grab. And unfortunately, every time I went there, it was like a massive heat wave hit me and almost knocked me back. It actually burned my tires eventually. So, and there's a rental car, so I'm sure I'm going to get a huge bill from them.
Well, I see you here in the midst of rescues. This
Yeah.
was after. Tell us about this.
So this was so what happened was is I eventually, this might be the next night, I can't remember, is I heard there was a plea for help. This was in Agora, near Eastwood Ranch Foundation. I'm on the board of Eastwood Ranch. We do dog and cat rescue and adoption. So because it was Eastwood Ranch and I heard it was in Agora, I drove there to help at Eastwood Ranch, of course. And then I saw all these fire trucks and people going on the other side of Eastwood Ranch into the hills of Agora Hills. And so I followed them up there, and just by luck, I parked my car and I started running to these things because you couldn't get in because it was all blocked by horse trailers and stuff and cops and firemen. And as I was running, a car drove by me. I heard Billy, and I'm like, "Who's that?" And it was AC, Aaron Christensen from Animal Advocacy Network, and he was in that truck. He was in his truck that's got certified to go through the. And I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "Do you want to help out? We're trying to get these horses and chickens and pigs and this and that." I said, "Sure." And I've been with him ever since. So we did get all those animals out and more. Everything from the horses, obviously, to the peacocks. Very dangerous animals, the peacocks. They are very aggressive.
Well, you rescued them, and I'm sure they're grateful. There's one of the peacocks that you rescued. You also were involved in rescuing chickens, and you were involved in rescuing pigs. And I just want to ask you, why is it important? Because so many people dismiss farmed animals. When it comes to farmed animals, it's like they're not sentient beings. Why did you, and certainly I don't feel that way, but maybe you can remind people why it's important to rescue pigs and chickens as well, which you did.
Well, just so you know, this particular place, these are not farm animals that are meant to be eaten. These people they take these animals in, and they're not their pets but they love these animals. The goats. I don't think people would. So I think that whether it's a dog, cat, or a goat, people love their animals. I don't care what their animals are. There should be no discrimination here. And if you got a goat and you love that goat, we're going to get it out. You got to get it out. So, and I think it's important to get all animals, even if they're farmed animals that are meant for whatever. I think it's important to. Nobody or no animal deserves the suffocation, the smoke, and the burning alive. No animal deserves that. So go ahead.
Well, I just want to say thank you. I think everybody who is participating in this town hall wants to say thank you, Billy, because the video shows while everybody is rescuing and many people have risked their lives, because you can still die if you step on a lithium battery or a wire. So I know Jane Garrison, who's been in the field, has risked her life, and Maya has risked her life. But you are there in the inferno. And I just can't thank you enough. Once again, this is Billy's video from the inferno. He was literally surrounded by fire.
Yeah, and just one other thing. I didn't want to bother the firemen or the cops, but I did get stuck there and I had to walk all the way home to Santa Monica. And that's why had to walk through the village because I didn't know how else to find my way back. So I had to walk Sunset until I figured out. So I happened to be in the village and when it was burning down, and so that was it would be nice to. I didn't want to ask anybody for help, so I ended up having
Well,
to.
you are our hero. Everybody is saying it who is commenting. Thank you, Billy McNamara. You are our hero. Wow. So amazing, your work. And thank you for rescuing those animals. I know you're wiped out, so I just want to say I appreciate you being on. You feel free to continue on with your day and relax. And we're going to talk to a couple of other people who also have to go back into the front line. So let me ask you, Jane, what do you think is going wrong? Because obviously, you can debate the fires. I just read an article. Los Angeles does not have enough firefighters, does not have enough fire stations. This has been an ongoing controversy for years. The response, certainly the firefighters are heroes. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the planning. But then after the fires end and there's all these animals trapped in buildings, what the heck is going on where you can literally hear the cries and you're not allowed to go in?
Jane, you just hit the nail on the head. That's exactly the biggest issue right now. I think what happens, and we see this in almost every disaster. I've started working on disasters 20 years ago. Every disaster, you have great organizations willing to help local animal control, and local animal control they tend to always have the same response. We're fine. We don't need help. The biggest mistake is that animal control that doesn't not know how to deal in disasters, they look at this as business as usual, animal control like we do every single day. And they are unwilling to take the help that is being offered to them. This is 8 days later and a lot of pushing from Judy and others that got together 8 days later and they're finally accepting help. That is not only unacceptable, that is actually criminal. If you can't handle a situation and there's animals or people's lives are at risk, you need to step aside and let those who can handle it do their job.
Okay, I think you're making a great point. So I want to go to Simone Reyes, who has been very involved in rescue for her whole life, but who has been basically handling a lot of these. I'd like to help. I'd like to help fire victims. Here's one.
We're all
We live in the
go together.
We live in the Palisades. Yes, with Judy Mancuso. We live in the Palisades. We have chickens that desperately need food and water. Cats. There's tons of these coming in. What can we do to help?
Well, first of all,
it's her and her partner, Angelinos.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, what seems to be a problem is that there's no main hub. Social Compassion is trying to get that together because social media is wonderful, but it's also complete chaos when it comes to this because people are just putting their addresses out there. Anybody go check my animals. Unfortunately, the real victims, if you look at the numbers, seem to be cats because dogs tend to go with their, guardians with them. Cats are the ones that are left behind where you think they're safe and secure in their homes. So unfortunately, Billy has, come across, carcasses, able to give the family some level of closure. But the cats are the ones that are missing the most in my experience. It's so helpful that, boots on the ground are leaving food because cats are notorious for hiding. And so that's become something that maybe, as they get, the days go on, they might be able to come out of hiding. At night, they're probably coming out for food. We have every reason to believe that there are still animals there, not just trapped in people's homes, but just ones that, the house was burning, but they still were able to run and get cover somewhere. And the problem is that if these were children that were left behind by no fault of the guardians, you can believe that the National Guard wouldn't be stopping the people trying to get in. They would be joining them and helping. And it's just another way that we see that animals have no true rights in this country or in this world.
Wow, that is an indictment, I will say. I want to switch gears here because there's somebody who's been waiting very patiently who has several people, but somebody who's a hero in the animal rights community and who lost her life partner, her boyfriend. I'm talking about Lisa Levinson, who is such a force with In Defense of Animals, as well as her vegan spirituality groups, and who is always there for everyone else at all times. And today we want to honor you because you've lost your partner in these flames. Please join us and tell us, Arthur, I hope I'm pronouncing his right name correctly, his last name, Simoneau?
It's Simino.
Simino, thank you for joining us. My deepest condolences. Everybody in the animal rights community in Los Angeles and around the world offers you their condolences. Our hearts go out to you. I don't know, what more of a shock any human being could have. Tell us about Arthur and the situation that evolved.
Sure. Well, Arthur, he was definitely a renegade and a free spirit. Just prior to this incident, he was hot springing and mammoth skiing. And he said, well, the responsible thing to do would be to come home, because he saw all these people texting him and saying that Topanga was on fire. So he did come back. And in 1993,
Oh, you just dropped out for a second. Lisa, well, you are looking at photos of Arthur, and he was a hang gliding pioneer, believe it or not, who also was a rock climber and just a very, very active person, huge in the Topanga community. And it's a tremendous loss, when Lisa comes back, we'll continue with her. But our hearts go out to her. And Lisa, I just have to say, is one of the best people on the planet. She has what I call grace. In this time where the worst thing that could possibly happen has happened, she has maintained her grace, her dignity, her giving spirit, her just her generosity of spirit is so amazing. And she's continuing to work and do everything that she can to help. And so I just want to say thank you, Lisa Levinson, and we will come back to you. Let us go now to somebody else who I have to say has experienced something really horrible as well. And that is John Hopkins, who is there with Tiffany Brunelli. You, John, lost your vegan restaurant, you lost your home, and you lost your car. We're going to play some video of the before and after as you tell us. And Tiffany Brunelli is there with you. You're an elderly man. What a shock. Tell us a little bit about your loss, and thank you for speaking up, sir. Tiffany, can you just tell us a little bit about the loss?
He's going to talk now. Okay. Well, I'm looking at the front of my store there. From the appearance, it looks as though it's probably a couple of years old, that photograph. And now we're in the interior, and I see stuff that are a remnant of my serving area in the front of the store facing east. And there's a sign indicating my vegan promotion of lifestyle. This is the interior where many people sat at the long tables and conversed over the years. I encouraged community. I always wanted people to come in and sit down. They didn't have to buy anything. A lot of people thought my plates were works of art, and I took photographs of it and put it on the internet. I tried to keep the prices down so people could afford to eat. I had a daily bowl of soup that many times I just gave away because of the increasing homelessness. A lot of people were wandering around looking for something to eat. I'm just grateful that I had something to offer.
So, Tiffany, thank you for arranging for us to talk to John. We know he's elderly, but oh my gosh, he's lost everything. Can you describe a little bit the impact on his life and how he's surviving?
Yes, it's been the community has really rallied around him. He's been in operation. He's had a restaurant or health food store since 1977. So I was teasing him today. He's one of the mayors of Altadena, and he's had a lot of friends over the years. It was a meeting place. Like he said, people could hang out there all day without buying anything. When I first went in, you just feel like you're at home there. And his food was whole foods, plant-based, no animal products. He was a one-man operation. He cooked it all. His yams, you've never had anything like them. We were just talking about them today. And he barely escaped with his life. He told me today he woke up, he was taking a nap in the restaurant at 3 a.m. and he heard loud explosions in the parking lot. And they woke up and he looked outside and the whole entire street was on fire. And both of his cars had exploded. So he barely escaped with his life at 3 a.m. in the morning.
What a nightmare. There is a GoFundMe. We are going to put the link in the articles that we'll write about this town hall. So please go to Unchained TV in the coming days and you will get a link to be able to help John Hopkins, who lost everything. This was such a beautiful community hub, burnt to the ground. His home was also burnt to the ground. His vehicle was burnt to the ground. And this elderly man now is staying in somebody's just room. And what is he going to do? So this is a really, really, really tough situation. I know everybody's hearts go out to you, John. And I want to say, stay strong. We're here for you. I want to go back to Lisa Levinson. You're back. Thank you, Lisa. Tell us a little bit more about Arthur and you know, you are a person who gives so much. And I was saying, you always show grace no matter what. No matter what. This would be a perfect time for you to say, you know, to hell with anything. I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to. You didn't do that. You said, of course, Jane, I'll show up. And here are some photographs. And we're trying to honor Arthur's memory. So please tell us about his life and the meaning of his life. And also why he should not have died in vain. Why this needs to be a wake-up call for the whole planet.
Yes, exactly. Arthur was a free spirit. He loved to travel. He loved to go hot springing and skiing. He enjoyed thrill-seeking activities like hang gliding, rock climbing. He was wanting to live life to the fullest, which he really did in so many, many ways. And I'm so grateful to him for teaching me how to do that and also for being his companion on all of these wonderful journeys that we shared together.
But what can we do? What can we do given that your partner paid the ultimate sacrifice? What is the message? What do you have to say to the world?
Well, I think in this situation, there was no one there. He lived right across the street from a helipad where the water that was dumped on to the Palisades fire to stop it came from across the street from his house. So that's where the helicopters came to pick up the water, and then they dropped it over. But when, in the moment of his greatest need, there was no one there. The fire department, they were not in that location protecting the homes in that area. So he was there. Some of the residents were there. A couple literally made it out within seconds of losing their own lives. And it's really a tragedy, such a tragedy. My life will be forever different.
And again, what is your message to the world? What would you say we need to take away from this? Or this has to be a wake-up call. I mean, so often the networks, the mainstream networks, they just engage in, this is terrible, this is terrible. It's too soon to talk about what needs to happen. This is climate change. Sure, there were a lot of mistakes made, but the underlying cause is climate change, and it's getting worse. And this is just the beginning. According to some people like Sir David Attenborough, we're barreling toward an even worse climate apocalypse. And yet it doesn't seem that people are waking up enough to change their behaviors. Lisa, given you've paid the ultimate sacrifice, what would you say to the world at this juncture?
Well, I would say that this is time to go vegan. This is the opportunity to do the one thing that we can do, each one of us in our daily lives, something that is a very simple act of kindness and compassion, which is to choose to live a vegan lifestyle so that we can reduce the impacts on the climate and that we can try to heal the planet and reduce or prevent these catastrophes.
Well, I think that's very, very good advice. And I want to thank you again for joining us. I know it's difficult, and I appreciate, once again, Lisa, no matter what, you always have such grace and such poise and such kindness. Even when you're tested like this, I just want to say that everybody's heart goes out to you, and you have everyone's deepest condolences.
Thank you so much. I'm truly grateful, and I appreciate everybody's support. And it is probably the most difficult time in my life, I would say. I lost my kitty to heart failure one week, and the next week I lost my beloved partner. So it's been a tough 2025 so far. But I do appreciate everybody's support, and we also at In Defense of Animals are trying to help people who are suffering and animals who are suffering in the blaze. And if anybody's interested in, I put a link to help the rescues who are impacted by the fire.
Absolutely. Go to In Defense of Animals. And by the way, thank you, Lisa. I'll let you go because I know you have a very busy day. We really appreciate you coming on and sending love. Thank you. Okay. By the way, here is a GoFundMe for John Hopkins, who you heard from, who lost his vegan restaurant, Oh Happy Days, lost his home, and lost his car. So we'll keep putting this up. That's a GoFundMe that will help him raise money. He is really in crisis right now. So I want to go to my panel, who's been so patient. Paige, what's your takeaway? You've been providing food along with others who we will have on as well. We've got Cesar, and we've got as well Ellen Dent. What's your takeaway? You've been working there to give plant-based food to people in need.
Well, the first outreach I did was with Chef Supreme, who's unable to be here today. And he has the Harvest Academy. And basically he's been doing outreach for people of need for quite some time now. And it just naturally, those that are doing outreach for food for folks are moving this into the outreach here. And I'll let Cesar talk about plant-based treaty, but it's been an incredible outreach effort by a lot of Los Angelinos, as well as folks who are coming from all over the place. But I want to say this, that when you have a fire in your backyard, which happened to us in 2018, you're packing and you're running and you're hoping that your house stays intact. The winds are very familiar right now to what it was. And those victims right now are just at such a loss of devastation. Our home luckily was saved. So I know what that feels like in that sense of just that panic. So I'm doing everything possible to support people right now. So that's that. I will pass the mic to you, Cesar.
Cesar, take it away.
Thank you so much. And I would just like to start out by saying my heart goes out to everyone that's been affected by these fires. We're here for you, whatever we can do. Animal Alliance Network, Plant-Based Treaty. And, right now we're just trying to help give the community, coming together as a community, and, make sure that everybody has food to eat, just the basic food to eat and any other supplies. It's been amazing to see all the community coming together, all the businesses that have been, working with us. Olak, Vegan Joint, One Veg World, Veg and Go, Besties Vegan Paradise, Great Cafe, Debbie's Donuts, and more. I know I probably missed some, but It's just it's very touching to see the community come together in this time of need. And, we've been outside of the convention center and other locations just to try to make sure that people have plant-based food, because there's a lot of vegans that have been displaced, and I can't imagine losing everything, but then also to not be able to have food to eat that's being provided because there's no vegan options there. So we're just trying to, you know, give that one element of comfort, and whatever else we can give. Um, Bestie's donated a lot of toiletries and things of that nature, but we just want to come together for the community right now and make sure that they're able to have a nice meal.
Thank you, Cesar. And I know Samantha Lau, who is on here, has also been very involved. Samantha, big picture, you've been helping. Why? Why was your first instinct to go out there and help people deliver plant-based food to people? Because I'll tell you something. Somebody called me and said, "Oh, I want to help. I want to bring food." And I said, "Well, is it plant-based?" And they said, "No." And I said, "Well, that's the problem. You're accelerating the problem if you're delivering meat, chicken, beef, pig food to people. That's why we're in this crisis, because animal agriculture is the missing piece of the climate puzzle. You can't just solve climate change by looking at fossil fuels alone. The UN COP conferences are not accomplishing very much. They have them over and over again, and the problem's just getting worse because they refuse to look at animal agriculture. And essentially, animal agriculture is the reason why we've deforested much of the planet to either grow crops to feed 92 billion farmed animals we kill every year, or to provide grazing land for those animals. And those forests are gone because of that, and they're not absorbing carbon, which is why the planet is heating. If we reforested that land and got rid of animal agriculture, we could immediately begin to reduce the temperature back to pre-industrial times. How many times, Samantha, do we have to say this and hit a wall where nobody listens?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jane. It is so difficult to talk about these issues. People are just very stubborn to understand. And also, like you said, this is fueled by the climate crisis. And I see, as long as we've been out there, we see a lot of food donations from everywhere. They're all animal products, and they're getting thrown out. And when you throw out animal products, those cannot be composted. So it adds even more to the methane emergency that we're in. But if we provide people plant-based food can be composted, and they're healthier for the planet. They're healthy for a human body. So yeah, so we should be, disaster relief centers should be offering more plant-based options, if not 100% plant-based options, because what we're doing right now is absolutely adding more fuel to the fire.
Yeah, and that's not metaphorical anymore. It is absolutely literal. So I want to add to the stage somebody who's been very patient. Valerie Yanello, you've listened, you've been working super hard. And, I want to apologize. We asked a lot of people on, we weren't sure how many would show up, and everybody showed up. So that's a good problem. But Valerie, tell us what your takeaway is, because you're on the ground helping animals who are trapped in these houses, these burned out houses, who are starving right now, who have no access even to water. Why has this gotten so bad? Yeah, the fire obviously is a catastrophe, and there are reasons for that. We didn't have enough firefighters. There's
Water.
a drought as a result of climate change. But then after the fires are over, you'd think that people would be able to rescue their animals who are trapped inside these buildings.
Well, I think it's important to say, first of all, Lisa Levinson, I'm sitting here, I was crying. Just watching everyone's footage is so upsetting. I'm personally not on the ground, but people from our team are. But I want to say, I think there's a lot of confusion of why so many animals were displaced. This happened so quickly. People were out getting coffee. People were taking their kids to school, and literally within an hour, everything was gone. And so there is a reason why so many animals ended up being displaced and had to be left behind, which I think is important to acknowledge, because people are getting a lot of criticism online, and it's very, very sad when people are saying, I would never leave my animals behind. I would do anything. And it's like, as we heard from Lisa, her partner couldn't even get out alive himself. So I think that's just something to take away from all of this as well, is to be compassionate for people right now. This is not a great time, obviously. This is historically the worst fire I think Southern California has ever seen. And the city not having a plan in place, I think, is also something that needs to be acknowledged. This is not about, if you go to the LA Animal Services website, they will tell you how to be prepared for a disaster. That's the only information they're offering right now. But they themselves were not prepared for this disaster. And that's also why we're in this mess. It's 8 days later, and they finally put out an emergency phone number today. So people have had to go in and risk their lives on their own, trying to sneak in, using fake press passes, whatever they could do to get behind these fire zones to go in and save animals for people, when the city should have been doing that from day one. And I
want to ask Judy Mancuso, thank you for your patience. Doesn't the city or the county, one of them has a strike force, some kind of smart force that's supposed to go out in disasters and rescue animals? Where have they been?
They did not deploy any help or any mutual aid. So what took place is that it's been crickets from the city. The county had some evacuation areas. I've heard some of their animal control has helped, but in LA City, it was completely quiet. And what is needed in a time like this, which is now being put in place. And like Jane Garrison, I was at Hurricane Katrina and did not want to see the same mistakes made that were made there. And that's why I've been so vocal with the city, trying to get some organization in place. And it's taken a while, but as of today, we have a telephone number, a database, and people getting dispatched, but not the amount of people that we need dispatched. We need a lot of help on the ground, and this has been ignored for so many days. And it really needs everybody's attention, because time is of the essence now. After 5 days, if cats don't have water, they can get kidney failure. If these animals have survived this long, we owe it to them to be there and get them the help they need. We can't wait any longer. And what's happened today is it's harder than ever to get in. They're not even letting in press in some of these burn areas. So if the city doesn't step up and allow some of our rescue teams and get animal control to either escort the rescue teams, do something. But right now, all the rescue teams are getting blocked, and we need help to get past these lines.
Well, I don't understand. There's various explanations that I've read, Simone Reyes. Some reports say the city says that it's too burdensome on them to provide people to escort homeowners. Shouldn't that be the first thing that a city does? They've lost everything. They've lost their homes. They're devastated. They just want to find their dog or cat that's starving to death inside a burnt out home. Shouldn't that be something that's priority number one?
Well, again, it would be if these were humans that were left behind. And so it's, this is something that, animals are seen as property. None of the people that are calling us are looking for their grandmother's, heirloom ring. Not one person. They're looking to get their cats back, their dogs back, and their horses that ran wild because they wouldn't load. These are the phone calls that we're getting. And people are frantic, and they know what happens when cats don't eat. They get hepatic lipidosis, especially not having any access to water. The Palisades and now Pasadena are on do not drink. So the people can't even drink the water there. It's highly toxic. So obviously people need to have one evacuation plan if they have any way to have even a second to get out. But then there needs to be city and county accountable for these mistakes that they've made. And the thing is, this isn't our first fire, right? We had the same problems going on at the Woolsey fire. So what we did was we did an evacuation bill to make sure that people had the foresight to make a plan. You know, if you have a number of horses, you do need to have a number of trailers. You do need to contact an outside agency that can come if you can't hold all the trailers yourself, who can come. And I certainly know that this happened very, very, very fast, which is then if they've done everything right, which I have no doubt that many did do everything right and they still couldn't get their animals out, we need to be able to rely on city and county. And we have not been able to. Again, the animal rights community and the animal rescue community have been completely on our own.
Wow. It's an indictment. It is an indictment of the city and the county. I'm sorry. I don't go out of my way to criticize, but this is a fiasco. Just reading about how we didn't have enough firefighters going into this, and the firefighters themselves had been complaining, we don't have enough equipment. We don't have enough fire stations. Go ahead, Judy.
Okay. Well, first of all, there is not enough fire stations and firefighters that could have fought this fight. And it goes back to what you were talking about with climate change. You know, it has been now decades, you know, back when Al Gore came out with the Inconvenient Truth, you know, he wrote his book, there was a movie, and it said what was going to happen, the models that showed what would happen if we didn't change our ways. And the only thing that was wrong with those models is that the time has been accelerated in these events happening. So they gave us more time. They weren't wrong. They just didn't know how fast it was going to happen. So part of the problem, Jane, is these events are too big for humans to fight. Okay. And that, you know, so to place the blame on fire, little bitty humans are nothing up against these things. And yes, we need more air resources because they can't fight them on the ground, but the air resources have limitations as well. Cities and counties do need to be prepared. There's no reason why they didn't have a telephone number. There's planning that's done year after year. They should have had a number. They should have been ready. They weren't. We need them to be now ongoing. And this is a very hard lesson learned. But, you know, this is bigger than all of us, this fire event. And it's been coming for many, many, many years. And, you know, Al Gore talked about that tipping point and that, you know, we needed to do this and that before we got to the tipping point. Well, it didn't happen. They've been kicking the can with a COP 24, 46, whatever the numbers are. And everybody else, you know, the Paris Accord, people walking away. No one has taken this seriously. So this is what we have now that we're faced with is these events. And it's not just fire, it's tornadoes and hurricanes like we've never seen in our lifetime. And this is what we're faced with.
And I will say that I read an article that said we have 5 years, and some people say less, to get it together. You know, you hit the nail on the head, Judy. If focusing on fossil fuels would have solved this, then we would be seeing some progress. Not only are we not seeing any progress, things are getting exponentially worse. And you have what I would call carnist media. Newsweek just published an article basically saying, don't go vegan if you're worried about trying to save the planet. Do this instead. You know, when an Oxford University study that was published in the New York Times, and none of the networks picked it up, said that heavy meat eaters, which is most Americans, can reduce their greenhouse gas emissions footprint by 75% by going plant-based. So essentially, that's the answer. if we all collectively reduced our respective greenhouse gas emissions footprint by 75% by going plant-based, we would be reducing climate change. It's simple math. And yet nobody wants to hear this. The advertiser-based media, which stays in business due to fast food and pharmaceutical commercials, they don't want to talk about it.
Nope.
And the meat industry has waged war on the vegan community. They have like thousands of people with masters in beef advocacy pushing meat all over the social media because they saw when Beyond Meat had their initial public offering in 2019, oh my gosh, people are starting to realize they don't have to eat animals. Let's shut this down. So now you have all these hit pieces being written. Paige, you are a parent. You are an activist. You and I have talked about this so much. If this doesn't wake people up, if the pandemic, which was clearly zoonotic, either it was from torturing animals in the Wuhan lab or from torturing animals in the wet market, where they had all these thousands and thousands of animals, different species packed together with blood and guts, etc. In one way, shape, or form, animal abuse created the pandemic. That didn't wake us up. Now we have bird flu coming down the pike. That doesn't seem to be waking anybody up. Now we have these fires. I mean, what's it going to take, Paige?
Well, speaking of Beyond Meat, I was blessed to volunteer with Support and Feed while we were making some meals with Beyond Meat. And I want to say that their warehouse and their headquarters is huge, and they're working on some amazing initiatives. So, hey, y'all, get your Beyond Meat. What I want to say is my daughter came home at 13 and said she was going vegan. Parents, listen to your children, because what's happening on universities, college campuses, the younger generations are waking up. They're starting to see, they're listening, they're hearing, and they're looking to the adults. Did I disappear?
No, you're there.
Okay, good. They're listening to the experts, their adults, their parents. They're looking for guidance. And, some, have already gotten a bit stuck in their ways, but I'm not giving up hope on the college students, the university level. That's the first time they're putting food in their mouths. So I want to give a shout out and back to, if you want, Sam, because there's a lot of things happening in the cities with plant-based treaty making changes, and also on university campuses.
Absolutely. Sam, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Thank you, Paige. Yes. So yes, we're doing a lot of advocacy about plant-based food system. We're bringing the science, we're bringing the education. And yes, a lot of youth are understanding, they understand. So, we're also looking for, people who can help us out with this. So go to Plant-Based Treaty LA at Plant-Based Treaty LA to find out more information. Send us a message. We'd love to get connected with everyone. And we also need help, a lot of help with the donations right now going on with giving plant-based food to people affected by the fires.
Well, we're almost out of time. This has been an incredible, just an incredible conversation. Now, I want to try to bring Lisa Levinson back because, Lisa, you do spirituality. You have a lot of spiritual events that you preside over and guide people. I was hoping that you could say something in the form of, it doesn't have to be, it's obviously non-denominational, but something that is a spiritual guidance to us as we leave, because we don't just want to do what I call disaster pornography, which is what the networks do, just showing horror, horror, horror for ratings. We want to leave here having everybody who's watched inspire to double down on their activism. If you're not plant-based, try it. It's not a sacrifice. It's like when I got sober almost 30 years ago, I thought, I'll never have fun again. I'll never go to a party again. I'll never dance again if I get sober. I do all of that and I enjoy my life so much more. It's the same thing with going plant-based. There's this irrational fear. Can you lead us out in whatever you want to say to hopefully guide us that we may come away renewed and not just depressed?
Thank you, Jane, for that opportunity. Yes, I will say that Veganuary is happening right now. So in alignment with what you're saying, this is the perfect time to go vegan. I know at In Defense of Animals, we have a vegan wake-up call, which is happening now, and people can join us. I also want to just open the sacred circle here, and what you've shared with us, Jane. You've gotten us all together to honor the people and the animals who have struggled and suffered in this catastrophe, and to put out a blessing of peace and a vegan peace by creating a vegan world this year. This is the time to put together all of our intentions and all of our energy for a positive shift of consciousness within our community and also within our world. This is the time to adopt a vegan lifestyle, to help the planet and to care for our communities and protect them from disasters like this fire.
Thank you for that. That was so beautiful. I appreciate you just putting us in the direction of solutions. Sure, people are frustrated. Sure, people are angry. Sure, people are sad, having lost so much. I can't even imagine. My heart goes out to everybody who suffered. And my heart also goes out to all the animals who've suffered and who continue to suffer right now as we speak. But let's make this a moment for change, for transition, for evolution. Our species, the human species, is at a turning point. Are we going to take the road less traveled and evolve to a plant-based palate and a peaceful world? Or are we going to continue with destruction and death, killing 92 billion animals every year that's coming back to haunt us with a climate catastrophe? I will end by saying, my friend Patty Schenker coined this phrase, peace begins on your plate. I'll say it one more time. Peace begins on your plate. If you want peace, practice it 3 times a day by choosing not to eat death and to develop a peaceful palate. Thank you so much for participating in this town hall. I love all of you. Onward.
Thank you.
Onward.
Thank you so much.